avec Mario Becca, bien prononcé. So you are Deputy Chief Information Officer for Cybersecurity at NATO.
That is correct.
Thanks a lot for coming all the way from Brussels. So basically your work is to secure NATO's networks, is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
So our topic today, our discussion will be around how to secure NATO networks in times of war. So NATO, we all know, is a very complex organization. We have civilian and military entities. You have 2 locations, 2 continents actually, with different ICT infrastructures, with different business model. How a challenge is it to secure such a complex situation?
Well, at first, thanks a lot for inviting me, for having this. I mean, it's very important for us to share the knowledge and let people understand a bit better, a bit more about NATO, about how we organize and how we work. As you rightfully said, NATO is a very complex organization. We have, we are basically composed of several sub-organizations. We count a total of more than 50 small organizations, all together composed of what we call the NATO enterprise. So we see ourselves as one enterprise. And the mission that my sub-organization, the Office of the NATO CIO, has, is to basically look at the enterprise as a whole, trying to introduce more coherence, and trying to work and to increase the cybersecurity posture of the enterprise. Now, I started this job on the 14th of February of 2022. And at the time I thought, come on, I mean, that's a fantastic job. It's information security for NATO. NATO is one of the most secure. It has a fantastic mission. What could possibly go wrong? And then just 10 days after, we entered the war. And since then, we have been exposed to the highest set of incidents, attacks, tools and techniques. We receive attention from a number of threat actors around the world. So if you mention an APT actor that is published or followed by any of the CTI organizations that are represented here, we probably have activity on our networks coming from them. Our mission, the mission of NATO, as you said, the first mission of NATO in cyberspace is to secure our own networks. But yet again, we have a plethora of small organizations inside the organization. And some of them enjoy a high level of independence when it comes to information technology. So how do we do this? Well, the mission of our office is to look at risk that is implied by the business we do on the networks. And we usually try to identify 4 types of risks when it comes to cybersecurity, obviously. The first one is risks coming from threats. And this is what you see on the newspapers, right? Where, as I said, we receive attention from all possible threat actors on the internet at the moment. And so we have technologies like EDR, network monitoring, artificial intelligence. We try to use the best of breed tools that we see on the market. The second class of risks comes from obsolescence. NATO is celebrating the 74th year of creation this week. And so our ICT infrastructure is also extremely old, and it's been evolving year after year, layer after layer, generation of information technology after generation. And so keeping that up to date and minimizing the risk that comes from this layering is extremely complex. The third risk that we see is reputational risk. Many things, many activities, many attacks that we receive are not really affecting our mission. So they're not stopping our business, they're not impacting our business at all. But they're looking at diminishing and impacting the reputation of the organization around the world. You must have seen that a few weeks ago we suffered from a large campaign of denial of service attacks. There is no way that those type of attacks can really stop our core business. We have all sort of separation, air gapping, all sort of technology to do that. But in terms of reputation, that is serious. Because all around the world, you can see these snapshots, the NATO website has been protected, but this other entity website has gone down for 3 seconds. And you see the snapshot in the news. How can this be avoided? And the fourth risk, which is probably the most interesting one, is the risk of not finding or not retaining the appropriate skills and knowledge that we need for cybersecurity. The cybersecurity market today, workforce market, is extremely competitive, extremely competitive. We have people that come over, stay with us for a few months, and then just move on to something else. And NATO, as a large organization, is not structured to have this kind of dynamic. So these are kind of the four big chapters that I would say are very important today. Now, when it comes to doing this at times of war, one of the things that we learned from Ukraine is that it is even more important to get as much support as possible from industry partners. There is no way that anybody can suffer what Ukraine has suffered in cyberspace during the war without having support from hosting services, cloud computing providers, security providers, CTI providers, and etc. No way that you can do it without this. So being here, for me, it's a great pleasure with you and also with all the partners here. But I think it gives an impression and gives an idea of how important it is to get support from all of these people.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I think, just going back to what you said, but also the war in Ukraine also highlighted the importance of recognizing cyberspace as the domain of operation. I think NATO did that in 2016. What exactly does that mean today in the context of the war?
Well, this goes back to a number of very complex dynamics that we have in the defense world. So the traditional domains of operation, air, land, and maritime, they've been around, some of them for hundreds of years. So you have a set of very well-established rules, conventions, protocols. Today, there's a very well-established set of regulation that tells me what is the portion of airspace that belongs to a country, how you identify that, how it works, what can you do, what can you not do. When it comes to cyberspace, cyberspace is a new domain. And it's very different from all the other ones that we are used to work with. For instance, one of the characteristics is that we have no real doctrine, military doctrine, to regulate and indicate and understand how to act in cyberspace. Another important element is that differently from all the other domains, cyberspace goes beyond the geographical boundaries of the nations. So you have no physical or very little physical dimension where you can explain this is where my portion ends and this is where your portion starts. Another important element is that differently from other domains, the cyberspace domain is not really managed and governed entirely by governments. Cyberspace is really built up by infrastructure that is owned by the Google of the world, the Microsoft, the Facebooks, and all you can think of. So the amount of governance, management, regulation the governments can do in cyberspace is really different from what can be done in the other domains. So to answer your question, what it means to have it as a domain of operation means that the militaries of NATO nations see cyberspace as a place to act and to exercise their functions. On the other end, we are all trying to get parts with the complexity of the new domain and try to understand how to act with it. And again, this goes back to what we were saying a few minutes ago. In order to act in cyberspace, you need to have a completely different approach to the relations with industry partners. They have a key role to play in cyberspace, and we do have to recognize how this works and how the contact and how the relations should be structured. So when it comes to the war in Ukraine, well, cyberspace has been demonstrated to be one of the most important domains used in Ukraine. Before the advent of the war, we all thought that there would be a sort of cyber 9/11 at some point. So a big, large demonstration of power in cyberspace. The big demonstration has not happened. But what has happened is that the war in Ukraine demonstrated how tightly connected cyberspace is with all the other domains of operation. The reason why today President Zelensky is capable of providing his addresses, is capable of interacting with NATO partners, capable of interacting with the rest of the international community, well, this is due to the fact that a number of measures were taken in cyberspace, and a number of capabilities, again supported by strong industry relations, have been provided and are still supporting the business of the nation. So this is, for me, this is a great demonstration of how the cyberspace domain can be used and tackled at times of war.
And you also briefly touched upon it, but you know, the sort of the link between organization like yours and the private sector, and how the industry is key to also facilitating the digital transformation of an organization like yours.
Well, we touched upon it a few times already, but in essence, the thing that is happening today is that there is a sort of inversion in the relation between government and military organizations and industry partners. Up to the 90s, any military in the world could go to industry and say, this is what I want to do, please do it and come back when you're done. Today, the relation is inverting. It's inverting in the sense that the military organizations are becoming customers, just like many others. And many of them are so small that they are not able to, let's say, become relevant in terms of requirements. So one of the businesses that we are learning is, instead of saying, this is my requirement, do it and come back when it's done, we are learning to say, what are the capabilities, the things, the products, the state-of-the-art, the technologies, the tools that are available on the market? How can I integrate them into my existing processes? And this is a complete it's a huge mind shift, a complete change in how the relation works. And this is why we are struggling to keep up with the evolution of cyberspace and the evolution of cybersecurity. Nevertheless, we fully understand the importance of doing that, and this is why we are investing serious amounts of time in rethinking all of these relations. This is happening both at NATO level, so international organizations, but also at national levels. All the militaries in many NATO nations are also going through the same struggle, which means that basically this is kind of the trend that we will see in the next years.
Well, thank you very much. That sounds like interesting challenges ahead.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for being with us today, and good luck with the rest of this complicated challenge. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to be here with you. Thank you.